All right, everybody, it's the Combatcast with the man called Dave Chevaruni. Please like and subscribe if you've already seen our stuff and you like us and you keep coming back. Let us know. Anyway, let's talk about some fights. Let's talk about some things coming up. We got a fight night back. We got some stuff around the ring. But before we do that, Chevy, let's tell people what we got coming up.
All right, October 4th, UFC 320, Ankalaev versus Pineda 2. Looking forward to that rematch. That's a 10 p.m. pay-per-view from Vegas. And then October 11th, UFC Fight Night, Oliveira versus TBD, because Fiziev unfortunately had to pull out. So they're looking for a new main event there. I know BSD was asked and denied after he said that he wanted to jump in if somebody got hurt right after his fight. So that was interesting. But that's a 7 p.m. from Rio de Janeiro. I'm sure they'll find somebody interesting for Charles to fight. And then October 18th, UFC Fight Night, DeRitter versus Allen. That's a good middleweight matchup, but another one that is a late notice replacement. So 7 p.m.
We're really trying to sneak in and get that title shot if he can.
Yeah, I mean, he's not young. He was a two title holder and one championship. So he's trying to.
One of the better transitions we've seen
money.
Out of the UFC to come in. So
yeah, most guys come in and struggle, and he had a shaky start, but got a finish in the first fight, and he's been killing it ever since.
Yeah, good for him. All right, let's talk about stuff around the ring. I'll let you lead the way on this one. The UFC White House card. There was some footage released of it. Some of the potential picks. What did you think?
Yeah, there's like a little mock-up, a couple pictures that they posted. Obviously looks pretty cool right on the White House lawn with the White House in the background. And they have this like scaffolding that goes above. And they have all these lights and fireworks and stuff in the photo. Obviously, it probably won't look exactly like that. So looks pretty cool. Obviously that's not the most important part, but it is a giant spectacle that will probably only happen once. So that they want to make it look cool. Didn't look like there was any sort of cover over the top, which, Dana's always talked about. He doesn't want to do fights outside because if it rains, you're fucked. So did not see any cover in this mock-up they had. So that could be interesting.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. But he's also dealing with the White House and stuff too. So who knows? But it's interesting. Yeah, I'll be mostly interested. Obviously, we'll see what kind of card we get, because obviously a lot of people want to be on this card. But there's been talk about stuff too, like John Jones and people with criminal records that they may not want to put on this card that are necessarily big stars.
Hazmat recently said he wanted to be on the card on Twitter or whatever. It's like, bro, they're not letting you anywhere near the White House. You're best friends with a warlord.
Right. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But that'll be exciting when that finally does come, and that'll be good for the sport. I gotta believe anyway too. Just getting a card at the White House, regardless of what you think about politics and everything. Just seeing the UFC having fights in front of the White House is crazy. But there's some other news. Ronda Rousey's talking about finding her love for MMA again.
Yeah, she posted a video of her. She recently posted videos of that she was training. And then I think it was yesterday or today, she posted some videos of her hitting mitts, with her boxing coach or whatever. Excuse me. And we all know that when she was with Edmond, her hands were lucky for her, not required in most of her fights, but because they were not great. But she looked pretty good. I mean, this is obviously hitting mitts, so take whatever you can from that. But her saying she's finding her love for MMA again. What do you think about a possible Ronda Rousey return? I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't think any should be of it, only because she spent the last few years not doing anything MMA related. Mm-hmm. She's been in pro wrestling. That was about it. And somebody even commented, and I don't know if this was true, that she was saying she had a concussion from a slap she got from Stephanie McMahon afterwards. So it's to me, it sounds It doesn't sound like the greatest idea. I will say this. I'll just play devil's advocate. No, I'm not for it. I don't think it's a good idea. I prefer she didn't. I will say this, though. She is one of those one-of-one athletes. She's changed the game. And if she wants to, and this is where I would wonder, because she's she's also spending her life being a mom and doing all these things. And certainly not saying she's not capable, but athletes have an exclamation mark, especially combat sports athletes. But if she were to totally rededicate herself and really come in there with different coaches, she has the money, she has the background. I would be very careful of who they would pick for her first opponent, though. So,
yeah, she is, one of those Conor McGregor level stars, obviously too, and. Talk about this White House card, and
sure,
they're going to make the biggest card of all time or whatever. Ronda coming back would be, that'd be a good highlight for the card. But I'm with you. I would prefer not to see it. Not that I don't, not that I would doubt Ronda's dedication or anything like that. If she dedicated herself, she could come back and do some things. But I just don't think at her age that she can catch up. That the women's MMA had already kind of passed her by quickly, with the Nunes, we all knew it was going to happen in that fight.
I worry that they would try to feed her to Kayla Harrison or somebody too, and say that, because of her judo background and stuff, she's going to match up well. When it's clearly no, Kayla's been fighting all the time, is much bigger, and
Kayla was a 2-time gold medalist, and Ronda only won bronze. I believe.
So I mean, it's a different ballgame. But hopefully they wouldn't do that. Hopefully, if she did rededicate herself, she'd be fighting a number 15 or somebody maybe on the way up, and it makes sense. But
other, maybe somebody on their way out.
Right? Maybe that for her, yes, yeah.
So.
They probably wouldn't. They'd probably find someone inexperienced but hungry and see if they could get a star. But hopefully, she wouldn't get smashed.
Or if they could, so I know Kat Zingano is over in PFL now or whatever, but if they could make that happen.
Miesha Tate.
Miesha Tate, that would be right. Ronda's not going to get hurt in that fight would against Amanda or Kayla potentially.
Sure.
So. But we'll see if anything comes from it. If she stays retired and she stays on her homestead with her children and Travis, I'm all for that as well. So,
it definitely seems like that would be the better choice. But hey, who are we to question these athletes who have done all these great things and stuff before? So, best of luck to her if she does it. I just, as a fan, would like to see her do something else. That being said, let's get to UFC Fight Night. Ulberg versus Reyes. That is a very interesting main event. But why don't we see if there's any other fights on this card you want to talk about before we get to that?
Yeah, this is taking place in Perth, Australia. It's a 10 p.m. Eastern card, so it's starting a bit late for us here on the East Coast. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of Australian fighters, New Zealand guys. So Jamie Malarkey versus Rolando Bedoya. That's a fun fight on the prelims. And then on the undercard, Justin Tafa, he's on every Australian card. He's fighting Louis Sutherland. Then you got Jake Matthews versus Neil Magny. That's a fun fight. And then Jimmy Crute versus Ivan Erslan. So, all the major Oceania guys down there. But let's get into this co-main event because I'm looking forward to these couple fights. Jack Jenkins versus Ramon Taveras.
All right, Ramon the Savage Taveras. I like that name. 10-3, 5 KOs, 3 subs, 2 decisions. He's won 2 out of his last 3 fights, 2 1 UFC. 2-time Contender Series guy. He actually lost on Dana White's Contender Series and came back and won. Jack Jenkins, 13-4, 6 KOs, 3 subs, 4 decisions. He's 3-2 in the UFC. So I would say these guys are pretty well evenly matched when you look at it. 5 KOs versus 6. Both have 3 subs. It's just, who's going to execute the game plan? I've seen a little more Jenkins, so I'm kind of going to lean towards him. But this is, again, maybe I need to get more familiar with Ramon Taveras because, like I said, this on paper looks like a pretty even matchup. So I'm going to go Jenkins, but I'm going to go decision.
Yeah, Ramon looks great when he's the one going forward, but I haven't seen what he looks like when he's on his back foot. I actually watched he fought Charles Crazy Horse.
Oh yeah,
Felony Bennett in the
yeah.
in the regional scene. I watched that fight earlier today. He knocked him out. But yeah, every fight I've seen, he's the one pressing the action, and I assume Jack will be the one pressing forward in this fight. So he's going to be using those leg kicks he's known for. You know, he has a bunch of leg kick stoppages. So this should be a fun striking match. I haven't seen enough of Ramon against good competition yet, so I'm with you. I'm going to pick Jack. I'll go with a TKO in round 3. I think it'll be that accumulation of those leg kicks I was talking about.
All
right, moving on. Main event here. This is a high-level light heavyweight title fight with, the winner probably wins one more and maybe gets a title shot. We'll see. So Carlos Ulberg versus Dominick Reyes.
Yeah, Ulberg is 12-1, 7 KOs, 1 subs, 4 decisions, 8-1 in the UFC, 8-fight win streak. So lost that UFC debut and came right back. Fight of night 1 time, performance of the night twice, and also just to note, 3rd fastest knockout finish in UFC light heavyweight history over Alonzo Menafield. So
yeah, like 15 seconds or something like that.
He's got hands. Dominick Reyes, 15-4, 10 KOs, 2 subs, 3 decisions, 3-fight win streak, which is important to note was because it was coming off of a 4-fight losing streak. One of those losses was to then champ John Jones, a fight some people thought he won. Mm-hmm. Hell of a fight. And then he just got caught and just had some vicious knockout losses.
3 straight KO losses. Yeah.
3 straight KO to Jahovich. Blachowicz. Yeah. And, just a lot of guys.
Yuri hit him with that spinning elbow. That one was really bad.
Yeah. And so he just really fell on hard times. And I think he was even contemplating retirement. And now he's turned it around and he's got himself potentially in a title eliminator or close to it. So it's a great story. He's looking good here, but this is probably his best test because this is an aggressive young guy. God, I want Dominick to do this because I really like this story. But I just feel like the smart money would probably be on Carlos. And it's probably going to be another knockout because even though I think Dominick has done it's just the way they're going to fight each other. And he's got hands. So I'm going to go Carlos 2nd round knockout. But I'm going to hope that Dominick Reyes finds a way to get this a decision. And we're talking about him fighting for a title after this. No offense to Carlos. I love Dominick Reyes' story.
Yeah, I think this is a great fight. Another one I assume will be mostly standing as well. So, Ulberg been on a tear. Only that one loss in his UFC debut to Kennedy Njoku, who is obviously a dangerous striker. And then obviously you mentioned the 4-loss streak, 3 of them being bad KO losses for Dominick Reyes. But he seemed to refine his stellar form because he's now on a 3-fight KO streak wins.
That should be noted too. Yep, they're all KOs.
Yeah. Yep. He's been looking fantastic in all these fights too. So I'm going to pick with my heart on this one. I think the experience is going to be the deciding factor. I expect Reyes to fight intelligently and a bit safer early on. Maybe some clinching and trying to hit elbows on the break to catch him. And then you might see him open up later on in the fight if Ulberg slows down. Because I think he knows how dangerous Ulberg is and that he's been clipped and knocked out a few times. So he'll be cautious about that. So I'm going to pick Reyes by decision. But honestly, I could see this one going either way with a finish as well.
I would not be shocked to see Reyes get a finish here either. And like you said, I kind of thought that too. With experience, he could drag this out and maybe catch him. And who knows? If these guys start just throwing haymakers, anybody could go early. But yeah, I think that I think Carlos will probably catch him early on. I hope not. Well, I hope you're correct. But it's a dangerous fight for this guy I want to see come back. Only because, like you said, he's had those knockout losses in the past. Yeah. And if you even look at his knockout wins, there were times where he looked almost a little like he was I don't want to say nervous, especially if you go back to the first fight when he kind of turned this around, like he was getting hit a little bit here and there, but
Similar to those stretches where like Overeem when
yeah,
his like chin
yes,
started to go and then he started fighting safer and then the same with like Arlovsky did that same thing where
yes.
we changed your style up. I think you're gonna see that here with Reyes. A little bit safer, but not boring. I mean, he's still
Yeah.
dangerous, but just not getting into a lot of exchanges.
Well, we shall see. Again, I just love the story of Dominick Reyes if he can turn this around and somehow end up fighting for a title and being champion again would even be crazy, but it'd be pretty awesome to see. But let's see what happens this weekend. Chevy, why don't we tell people what we got coming up in the meantime before that?
All right, October 4th, UFC 320, Ankalaev versus Pineda 2. The champion will be decided again here in the light heavyweight division, and then that's a 10 p.m. Vegas card. And then October 11th, UFC Fight Night, Oliveira was going to be Fiziev, but obviously had to pull out. So that's a 7 p.m. Rio de Janeiro card. And then October 18th, UFC Fight Night, DeRitter versus Allen. Come on, Brendan Allen. 7 p.m. Vancouver, British Columbia.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We'll see you next week.